Hollywood seems to love a feel-good rags to riches story, but in the early 2000s, historically accurate music biopics hadn't yet become popular. It was more like scripts loosely inspired by true events. In 2001, a movie called Rockstar, originally titled Metal God, was a drama comedy starring Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston. The movie would tell the story of Chris Izzy Cole, who's a tribute band singer who becomes the lead singer of his favorite band. The film would be inspired by the real-life story of Tim Ripper Owens, who himself was in a Judas Priest tribute band and was ultimately chosen to become the real singer of Judas Priest when singer Rob Halford left. When Owens joined Judas Priest, the story made headlines around the world, and Hollywood quickly took notice. The original article that was published in the New York Times in 1997 was titled, "Metalhead Becomes Metal God." Keep in mind, this movie came out long before biopics were big business, and when Hollywood was not really interested in telling an accurate story, let alone using a band's image or music. In reality, Owens joined the band in 1996 after two fans named Dan Johnson and Steve Trent submitted a grainy VHS tape of him to Judas Priest, and they found the similarity between Halford and Owens to be uncanny. Previously, he'd been in a signed act called Winter's Bane that raised its profile by touring as a Judas Priest cover band called British Steel. Owens would go on to record two albums with Judas Priest, including 1997's Jugulator and 2001's Demolition. Halford would return to the band in 2003, with Owens departing the group amicably and joining the heavy metal band Iced Earth. Getting back to the story of the movie Rockstar, the first red flag for the film was that Owens was barely involved in the making of the movie. In 1997, the New York Times Sunday edition ran a story called Metalhead Becomes Metal God by Andrew C. Revkin about Owens' crazy story of being chosen to play in the band after being part of a tribute act first. The next day, his parents got calls from Warner Brothers and George Clooney saying they were interested in the story. Owens passed the information on to Judas Priest manager Jane Andrews. Owens was pretty naive about the whole situation, saying, "You think you're going to get paid from it anyway? And at that point in my career, I'd have taken $5,000, but they're not Judas Priest for nothing. They know what they're doing." Although the band and the movie studio started out collaborating pretty well, things quickly deteriorated. The band was quickly told by the studio they had no creative control after they voiced their opinion about the angle of the movie. Plans to feature the band's music in the film were also scrapped. Some of the things the band didn't like was making the band members appear older than they actually were and writing more drama into the script than there actually was between the members. They felt the movie was going to be another Spinal Tap, and they didn't want their story to be told that way. In a 2014 interview with Blabbermouth Online, Owens explained why the plot was changed so drastically once Judas Priest was no longer involved in consulting on the production. When they first got the idea to do the Rockstar movie, it was really going to be about me, and then Judas Priest pulled away from it because they didn't like some things, so the producers really made their own movie, I think. Originally, Warner Brothers didn't admit that the movie was inspired by Judas Priest or Owens, and later on their spokesperson relented and conceded that it was inspired by the infamous New York Times article, never actually admitting the movie was inspired by Judas Priest directly. Fans of the movie know about Owens' connection to it, and he still gets asked to sign covers of the DVD and would share in a 2019 Ultimate Classic Rock article that, and I quote, "There are people who just know me from Rockstar and not even from Judas Priest. How weird is that?" Given that the band and Warner Brothers had cut ties very early in the production, you're maybe wondering what ended up on the film soundtrack. There were no Judas Priest songs found on the film soundtrack, but it did contain music from other rock and roll acts, including Sammy Hagar, Culture Club, and AC/DC. A band called Steel Dragon filled in for Judas Priest in the movie itself. And in the film, Owens was not only portrayed as being much older than he was when he joined Judas Priest. For reference, he was actually 29 when he joined the group, but he's also shown as a stalker fan. Although Owens doesn't take much offense to the second part, in his interview with Ultimate Classic Rock, he would admit, "In high school, I was a stalker fan." In the original 1997 New York Times article, his mother, Sherry Owens, recalls how, and I quote, "His room, walls, and ceiling was nothing but posters of Judas Priest." In 1997, when the New York Times put out the article, Owens was still in shock being part of Judas Priest, saying, "At first, I was in absolute awe, but it gets a little more real every day." Meanwhile, Rob Halford's portrayal would offend Owens and some fans when his character was fired for being gay. In truth, he was already out of the closet long before then, and he chose to leave Judas Priest on his own accord. Ultimately, karma would catch up with Warner Brothers when the movie grossed just under $20 million on a $57 million budget. The film would score just 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, with reviewers saying things like, "It's a non-stop cliche and a bad example of the average person's dream come true plot." The band never pursued legal action against Warner Brothers for producing the film. Owens, for his part, said he felt powerless about the movie's release, sharing in a 2001 interview with MTV Music Online, and I quote, "There's no telling what they put in there. If I could sue, I would." The film would take place in the 1980s, and the hedonistic revelry that Steel Dragon took part in was purely fictional, as was the love story between Wahlberg and co-star Jennifer Aniston. There would be one thing the movie got right. Mark Wahlberg's character would end up playing smaller gigs with his own material after leaving the band. Owens would look back at his time in Judas Priest and has one regret, saying, "We all knew that Rob would come back eventually. That was a given. I love the guys in Priest, and if there's anything where I could look back and wish, oh man, I wish it could have worked out, that would probably be it. I was glad to see Rob come back, but I do wish they would play some of my material when they're out there on the road." Less than a decade into the 2000s, Hollywood finally hit a stride and started producing higher quality music biopics like 2002's 8 Mile about rapper Eminem, 2005's Walk the Line about Johnny Cash, and 2007's I'm Not There about Bob Dylan. Arguably, the movie's fatal flaw was that it was just too generalized when the real-life story about Tim Ripper Owens was actually more interesting. So let me know in the comments section, guys, did you see Rockstar and what did you think of the film? Let me know what your favorite rock biopic is in the comments and which one I should cover next. We'll see you again on Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.